talk about. We'll take some questions at the end of the show. We haven't been doing that the last few days because we had 3 people and we had a lot of stuff to talk about. And a minor trade, a waiver claim this morning, which was a little surprising. But Russ, start us off with some pre-show.
Okay, so let's talk about the World Series. It started last night, and again, and this is something that's been happening a little bit more in Major League Baseball this year, but it's not like it's never happened before. George Springer hits a ball in the outfield. He's watching it, hits off the wall. He only gets a double. The team's down by 2 runs. It's late in the game. Here's the thing about that play.
Yeah, he Cadillac'd it. He definitely did.
Oh, no, there's no question. He slowed himself down by 4 or 5 seconds, maybe more. So he probably could have gotten a triple just by normally legging it out, right? Just by gutting it out of the box because he's got good speed. And you never know what's going to happen after that. Could be a throw, an overthrow, tying run comes in. Could be a wild pitch on the next batter. Right. Then the tying run comes in. But he took away all of that by Cadillacing that. And I have to tell you, if I was the manager, I know he's an important player. I wouldn't have him start the game. I really wouldn't. I'd be like, you know what? We're in the World Series. If you went and through a 162-game season and playoff games to play like that, then we don't need you.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
And I would pinch hit him or something.
Yeah, the Astros are an extremely intelligent – baseball-wise, and analytically run and extremely, extremely talented. They are also extremely full of themselves, arrogant, and a group of, I'll hesitate to use the other word that begins with the letter A. Mm-hmm. And it came out during the Yankee series, and I know I'm a Yankee fan, so if you want to consider my opinion biased, but go ahead. When Carlos Correa hits a home run to win the game in Game 2 and holds his hand up to his ear. If we were talking 10 years ago, that ear would have been taken off by a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Sure.
That's not part of the game anymore. So, and if a pitcher did it, he probably gets suspended for 10 games. So it's taken out of the game. But I think that their arrogance runs as well into the way that they play. That was definitely a Cadillac. I think that Altuve with the game-winning home run, there was a little bit of that showmanship. Now they won a series there, so you can
give them a little bit more slack for that.
Right,
you're right.
But I'm sure I won't get earn any friends in Toronto from this. This is all stemming and all coming after the Jose Bautista bat flip. Yep. And there's nobody more arrogant in terms of a baseball player than Jose Bautista in his prime. And I think that and maybe even Major League Baseball wants that kind of showmanship to happen now because they see the flamboyance of the NBA, end zone celebrations in the NFL, and they say, okay, there must be something there. So we'll let our players do that. We won't fine them as much. We won't, hold them accountable based on the old baseball rules. But this is what you get. You get guys like Gary Sanchez not hustling down the first baseline on a ground ball. And you get a guy, that ball, I saw the hit. Adam Eaton was in right field. He climbed the wall. He missed it by about a foot. If Springer was hustling out of the box, you're right. He probably gets to third. And I think it was 1 out at that point.
It was 1 out. And the other guy wasn't tagging up because he didn't know what to do. But if he saw Springer coming, he would have to go.
Right. And I believe the next ball hit was a fly out to Robles in center field. So, and they couldn't advance. So that cost them a tie ball game.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, just flamboyance is one thing. Bad baseball is another. I don't think Major League Baseball wants bad baseball.
No.
And they can't do anything about it. This is up to the managers. The managers have very little power these days, but they do have the power to get their players to hustle. And you know what? That's a consideration when you're setting the starting lineup, when you're the manager and saying, you know what? I don't care what the analytics department says. I don't care what anything says. I'm sitting him down because I don't want this to happen again in the World Series. That's what I would do.
Yeah, and I'm telling you something right now. When both teams in the World Series are teams with dominant starting pitching staffs, I don't know if Major League Baseball is as much of a copycat league as the NHL is, but you would think that it would, put a little thing in somebody's mind that, Dominant starting pitching, World Series. Yankees, Tampa Bay, Oakland. These are the teams that are going with bullpen by committee, openers, emphasizing the depth and strength of their bullpen. Having a strong bullpen is fine. Kansas City won a world championship in 2015 that way, but they also had starters that went further. And I think Cueto was one of their starters, and he went deep in a couple games. You cannot have teams that are strictly reliant on their bullpen. And both of these teams, I mean, the opening of this series was Scherzer versus Cole, and now Game 2 is Strasburg versus Verlander.
Yeah, I mean that's an amazing matchup right there.
The Cardinals or the Yankees, the two teams that lost in the AL and NLCS, have no starter that can match up with any one of those four.
This is a tale as old as time, and I think what teams have decided to do is use analytics to talk themselves out of paying a starting pitcher what they're worth. I really do think that that's the case, because end of the day, you either have to draft these guys or you have to get them on the open market. When you draft them, you do get their rights for a fair amount of time, and then like in the case of Cole, maybe he does become a free agent, maybe they re-sign him, we don't know. But in the end, you walk into the World Series, you need at least 2 dominant starters, possibly 3, but at least because Arizona did it with 2, but those 2 were pretty exceptional. So they got away with it, and that was
And what did Washington do yesterday? They used their Game 3 starter in relief for an inning
because their bullpen stinks.
Yeah. Their bullpen stinks, and they have to do that, but. Already you see in the New York papers, and this is translatable to teams that are rebuilding, like the Blue Jays for our Toronto viewers. They've invested in all these young, great hitters, and I think they're all great. Bichette, Biggio, Guerrero. Problem is that they have no starters, and they have nobody even close to those guys in terms of level of prospects in their pitching prospects. So it's going to be a long slug for the Blue Jays to get back. And with the Yankees, they're already doing the spin even before Cashman and Aaron Boone have their end of the season pressers tomorrow. They're already spinning. Well, Devi Garcia, our 20-year-old phenom pitcher, he could be the ant. I mean, come on.
Right. The Yankee fans don't want to hear that, honestly, and I don't blame them. I would just say it like this. These days, you can't have – even if you have a really good bullpen, you can't have lousy starters and great hitting. You're not going to get to the playoffs that way, simply because you might score 6-7 runs every couple of games. You might average 4 runs a game, but your starters will give up more than that, and your bullpen will get burnt out because guys can't go past 3-4 innings. It's a simple equation, but I guess a lot of teams still – want to fight it with, either analytics or just justification.
All right, let's get started. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the Hockey Buzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We had a bunch of games last night. We'll talk about all of them. There were 10 games on the schedule. We'll probably just mention a few of them, but talk about a lot of them in detail. Let's start with the red-hot Buffalo Sabres earning a 4-3 overtime victory over the San Jose Sharks last night in Buffalo. Eichel scores the overtime winner. The Sabres come back from a 2-0 deficit, tie the game, take the lead. I think it was Erik Karlsson tied the game, or at least he assisted on it. No, Karlsson got the goal to tie the game, and then Eichel in overtime. After the game, Logan Couture, who's the Sharks captain, read the riot act. Apparently talked to the team, and then went to the media after the game and said, because Kevin LeBanc and Timo Meier were caught out for over a minute in overtime,
right?
And that was the play that was sort of responsible for the loss. And he said, that's selfish and that can't happen. And I think that shows good leadership. But we look at the situation where Buffalo has only lost 1 in regulation, and San Jose has played better since Marleau came back and has sort of righted the ship. But you're up 2-0. Those are games that you probably should win.
And can we also talk about Casey Middlestat? Because for as much as he was maligned last year, again, he's only 20. He worked out a lot last year. He got stronger. He's got 7 points in 10 games.
Yeah.
He's flying out there now.
Yeah, he's playing a lot better. I think one of the reasons why, Russ, is that they've taken a little bit of the weight off of him. They played Johansson at second line center. He's playing against third line matchups, so that's
right. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good thing to do. So good for the Sabres. It's probably still not sustainable at this rate, but we know that.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like, I mean, I believe they're 8-1-1.
I've heard some people in Buffalo bark against that, even in my own phone conversations.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. I think
I don't want to hear it right now.
I think I'm related to somebody like that. But this is the thing. It's like, okay, if this was a one-off, you could think this might be for real. The Sabres, they could be this good. They made some changes in the summer. Okay, maybe this is the time that the changes happen. In the wake of the 10-game winning streak, and I know it was a different coach, and I know that there are some different players, I can't buy into it yet. Are they a better team than they were last year? Yes. Dahlin's a year older. Eichel is playing great. Olofsson is a young scorer. They added Johansson. They added VC. I mean, they're a deeper team, and they have Kruger, and Kruger might be pressing the right buttons where Phil Housley didn't. But again, right now they're getting great goaltending out of Hutton and Ullmark, and I think that's basically an average to below average pairing.
Yeah,
they played good defense in front of them. That might be might have an effect. If the goaltending coach, who was the goaltender coach in Carolina last year, is a factor, maybe they squeeze more juice out of the lemon of Hutton and Ullmark than people think. Those are all possibilities, but it's an 82-game season, and we're talking about 10 games.
Yep, totally true.
Okay.
And for those math majors, that's like 1/8 of the season.
Right. Yeah. So it's a significant window, but it's not the whole picture. Florida Panthers beat the Pittsburgh Penguins 4-2. Dennis Malgin, Huberdeau, Noah Chari, and Frank Vetrano, a lot of ex-Bruins there, with the goals. Brian Boyle earned a third star in the game, and I believe that was his first start as a Florida Panther.
Just for showing up?
Just for sure. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, it's like Florida right now, the perception out there is that they've been a little bit of a disappointment. But right now, again, I know the season is only 10 games old. They're in a playoff spot. They're 4-2-3, so they're not doing as badly as some people thought they were doing.
Well, they've done better lately, though. That's the thing. They've picked it up lately. I just don't know what to feel about this team. I think Boyle helps them. I think it helps the way that Quenneville wants to play. So I think that's a big deal. But, Noah Chari was a good pickup. No question about it. Frankie Vetrano, okay. I mean, he's not going to score all year.
No, but I think he scored 20 goals last year, and they signed him to an extension, so they have confidence in him.
I know they do. I know. We'll see if that wasn't an aberration. He's a decent player. Don't get me wrong. He's got decent speed, too. We'll see. But, I mean, I look at the other teams, and I'm like, it's really hard to take Florida this seriously this early. They still have a -3 differential, but they're 4-2-3 in their last 10 because that's all we have to go by. Right now it's going all right. They're rebounding, but they've still given up more goals than they've scored, so it worries me.
And Pittsburgh is 6-4 right now, mostly without Malkin. I still haven't heard any kind of indication of how long they think he's going to be out. I know they said weeks, but there hasn't been, whether it's 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8.
It is miraculous there. It really is.
Yeah, I mean,
this would kill most teams' seasons. It would.
Right, and again, it wasn't just him. It was him. It was Bukestad. It was Russ. Yep. And now, they're still in the race. Again, it's only 1/8 of the season, but
people want to kill Mike Sullivan. He's keeping them together. So
yeah. Okay, let's touch on the Rangers game here. 3-2. Arizona beats the Rangers in overtime. 35 shots for the Arizona Coyotes, only 19 for the Rangers. Not Radek Dvorak, Christian Dvorak with the game winner in overtime. Did you see a lot of this?
A fair amount. This was a game where, and I was happy for Dvorak because he does have a great shot. This was a game, and Tony DeAngelo had both goals, which is nice for him because, again, he really can sniff out a play. Like his first goal was on a play that Panarin, I think, made the shot, and there was a terrific save by Kemper, and DeAngelo followed it up like a forward and put it in. Right. That's good, and his skating can get him there, So that was a big play, and then his other play was a nice play as well. That's a nice boost for them. The bad part is they're getting outshot to what they give up in shots is bad. I was looking at a list that they had, and it's one of the worst in the league. So what I'm getting at is they're not very good at shot suppression. They're not very good at clearing out the crease area. There's a guy, Lindy Ruff, who's in charge of all that. He's been in charge of it for a couple of years. I don't know what he's doing. I don't.
Yeah, 2-4-1 in their first 7 games. Only 19 goals scored, only 25 goals against. So the goals against isn't.
It's not like they don't have good goaltending. Georgiev was doing all he could, but when you're getting point blank shots and tantalizing shots, there's only so much a guy can do.
Yeah, and Arizona with that victory is 5-2-1, and Darcy Kemper is allowed 2 goals or less in 13 consecutive starts, which is
miraculous.
And a Coyotes record, obviously. But
but that's that's what they need to have happen to really push them over the top this year.
Competitive.
Hold on, but that's what I think they really need to have happen. It's going to have to be something pronounced like that for them to be able to do it. But I look at the Ranger team, and they're doing the wrong thing with Lias Andersson. They are, and that's starting to rub some people the wrong way, because if this is like an extended rebuild, how many kids are in your lineup at the moment? I mean, Houghton's young, okay. Who else? Greg McKegg's in there, Ryan Strome's in there, Kakko's in there. So, Kakko, Anderson. Maybe you want to count Howden, but Anderson played 7 minutes and 34 seconds. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and I said it before. I get the feeling that the emphasis of the Rangers really changed from developmental and all these young guys with the signing of Panarin, with the trade for Trouba, and all of a sudden it became a now team instead of a team that was on the cusp, but still had some ways to go for their young guys to really be contributors. And I think that's a problem. And by the way, I'm watching the Michael Kay show yesterday on during the afternoon, and they cut away and they did a preview of the Rangers playing the Coyotes, and they said Rangers coach Pat Quinn.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, that's bad. The last thing I'll say about the Ranger game is Kakko only played 9:51, but he did get an assist. And I do think I'm okay with his low ice right now because I saw some glitches with him. I don't think those glitches really exist as much with Anderson, but in the role you have him in, that's all he's going to be able to play. And I'm not saying he should be a second-line center. I'm not. But I'm just saying you got to find him some more ice time or send him down.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with these young guys, even the ones who are top picks or second picks, I think these organizations are a little fearful. Oh, this guy's a bust. If you send him down to the minors, no. It's like I know.
You want to hear something odd? When do you ever see a guy who only has 734 play 2.5 minutes on the penalty kill?
Yeah. Well, and I'll bring up a point I heard from somebody. And I know that, okay, Line A came right from the Finnish league into the NHL and had no problem. Puljujarvi came from the Finnish league and struggled.
Right.
It's basically up to the individual. It's not like, and somebody else was making the point when Jack Hughes was having his struggles was that nobody has come in directly from the USHL, from the US National Development Program, directly into the NHL. Like Austin Matthews went to Switzerland, and other players went to college for a year, but nobody went directly. And maybe that was an indicator that, you know, he needed that extra time, or he needed to play against tougher competition before he got to the NHL. All those points are valid, but it's basically up to the individual. Are you telling me that if Austin Matthews went to the Everett Silvertips, or went to Boston College, or whatever college he would have gone to, he would have been a better player instead of playing in Switzerland? I don't know. I don't think so.
I want to bring up something now. It's going to be a little bit of a lightning rod of a subject, but it's something that we have to broach. So it's announced today that Brian Elliott will play in goal for the next Flyers game. I knew if he won, he was going to play. I said it to the person I sit next to in Philly, right? That's a no-brainer. But then after that, what happens if he wins again? So I could go back to the Chuck Fletcher interview that we had during the summer on our Stick to Hockey podcast, that he basically said it's going to be a 52-30 breakdown. I don't know which one's going to be 52, and I don't know which one's going to be 30.
So he's really sticking his neck out there.
No, but I mean, he also said that because he knew he had a second-year goalie.
Sure.
And if Elliott reels off 5-6 wins in a row, he's going to keep playing.
Sure.
They're not going to play Carter Hart because Fletcher knows what Carter Hart is.
And Elliott
he's learning what Carter Hart is. It's different.
And Elliott has always been a streaky goaltender. I mean,
he's always been a streaky goaltender. So
I remember
you're going to ride the wave with him.
I remember one year in St. Louis, he was basically the all-star goalie at the halfway point, and then he started. And the same thing with Calgary. He had a streak where I think he started bad in Calgary, and then he was great like down the stretch or something like that. So he can get hot, but he
won't play back-to-backs, obviously, but they could ride the wave with him for a little while. It wouldn't shock me because Hart didn't get off to a great start, and that is what it is. Like you know, fans can't get upset because their future great goalie is going to miss some games. He'll do other things. He'll learn. He'll mentally prepare. It's not going to hurt him. People who think that's going to hurt his confidence, it's not going to hurt his confidence.
The Vancouver Canucks beat the Detroit Red Wings, who had a 2-0 lead going into the third period. 5 unanswered goals by the Canucks. Bo Horvath with the hat trick, 5-2 victory for the Canucks.
Hat trick in that period.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean Vancouver now.
Let's bring it up again. Horvath contract, Hischier contract.
Yeah, no, I don't, and it's nothing against the player.
I'll add an extra $1 million to it. I will. I'll give Hischier an extra $1 million for the inflation because this was 2 years ago for Horvath.
Yeah, I mean, I like I said, I like Hischier as a player, but I said to somebody in Toronto on Monday, the Hischier contract makes the Nylander contract look good because at least the Nylander contract he had scored 60 points twice before they gave it to him. Hischier, I think he had 48 in his
47 and 52, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so he didn't put the numbers up, and I think we'll find out at the end of the year if this is the case. I think because they know that Taylor Hall is probably gone, that they had to lock up the guy who they picked number 1. To say, okay, well, he's the guy we're building around because we're not going to be able to build around Taylor Hall because he doesn't want to stay here.
Right.
Okay, held off on this one long enough. We have to talk about the longtime rivalry, the arch rival Boston Bruins and Toronto Maple Leafs playing last night at TD Garden, second of back-to-back games. Bruins win 4-2. Now, I'll say this to start off with. Michael Hutchinson was not responsible for this loss. Michael Hutchinson actually.
No, but he did do something that I talked about.
Yeah.
When the backup goalie gives up that first goal, that's not great. If he does it, it does affect the team for a while. And, it wasn't a good look. You could say it was a great shot by Pasternak, but he had it stopped, and then it bled through. And even Pasternak didn't know it was going in until he pointed at it because it was just dribbling over the line.
But they came back from that, and then in the late second and early third period, he played really well. We made a couple great saves, one on Anders Bjork, which was phenomenal, and a couple other ones. But in the end, The Leafs lose. Brett Ritchie gets a goal in the third period on a broken.
Freddie Gauthier did what every coach now preaches against, and he threw up that blind pass along the wall. Yeah. They stop it. It goes to a player. Bing, bang, boom. It's in.
Right, and then they get the insurance goal later in the third.
And you knew that was coming, right? Like, I know that, you probably tend to think on the negative side first, which I get, but you kind of knew that was coming because as we were breaking down the ice, there was an awful lot of room out there.
The funny thing is that I expected the Leafs to lose this game, but they lost for the different reasons than I thought that they were going to lose. If it was the goaltending, then that was refuted because Hutchinson played well. Even Babcock said, it would be nice for us to get one for him because he kept us in the game. He made the saves he needed to make. The problem is, and this has been present now for the first, I think now 11 games, is that, and you can't say that they're not performing at all because one of them, who I'll mention in a second, leads the team in goals. But right now, the main reason that the Leafs are struggling and they're 5-4-2 in their first 11 games is that Mitch Marner is not Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews is not Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews played terrible defensively yesterday, and he went head-to-head. That line, they put Marner and Matthews, which everybody has been crying for 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah,
put them together because Tavares is out, and they put them head-to-head against Bergeron, Pasternak, and Marchand. And maybe it's not something that is a shame that they lose that battle since that line is one of the best lines in the league, but they didn't show up. They lost that battle. The Leafs lost the game. Pure and simple.
Well, they're not playing their best players. They're not. Because I think Spezza could be one of their best extra players, and they're not playing them. I don't think Gauthier is playing great. Games that I've seen him, I'm not overly impressed.
And Babcock talks him like if he could adopt him as a son, I think he would. That's right. The level of plaudits that he gets ready to go. I think actually Gauthier.
I gotta tell you, with Tavares out and Spezza not being used, clearly they're underutilizing Spezza. Right. Here's another thing. Why wouldn't you call up Jeremy Bracco and get a look now? He's a point a game, even if you have to put him on the fourth line, just to see if he can spark your offense because he's a proven AHL scorer at this point, right? Can we say that?
Yeah.
So why not give him a look?
I agree. I think they should have done that previously, maybe even last year when he was leading the AHL in scoring. Right now, I think if they would call somebody up, it'd probably be Igor Korshkov, who scored 5 goals in 5 or 6 games. Now, but the thing is that right now, and I'll mention it because I know the Eck reported something regarding the potential Leaf interest in Jonathan Quick. I'll shoot that down right now. The Leafs simply do not have the cap space. Their moves over the next week with Travis Dermott coming back and Zach Hyman probably in the next week or two are extremely limited. They will probably have to, when those two guys come back, they will have to send down 4 players to clear the cap space.
A lot. 4 players.
And they'll be at 21 players more than likely. They cannot trade for Quick, even if the Kings retained 50%, unless they traded an equal salary. And there's nobody really equal. It'd be a $3 million cap hit to clear for Quick, and that would mean trading a
3-for-1. I guess they could do a 3-for-1 to clear the money.
Right. I mean, it would mean trading a Kapanen or a Janssen who make $3 million, or a Kerfoot, which is not
Janssen looked great yesterday.
Or three $1 million players, and that's not going to happen. But did you say Janssen played well?
Yeah, I thought he played well. I saw ships where he played well.
Well, I mean, but it's.
I didn't watch the whole game though.
Yeah, no, it's funny though because he took 2 penalties. He took 1 penalty. They scored a power play goal. He on the face-off, following the penalty, he gets a roughing call, and he goes right back in the box. And this is after Babcock had basically read the riot act to the team about taking chintzy penalties. He did the exact thing. The best players for yesterday for the Leafs were their third liners were Kerfoot, Mikheyev, Kapanen.
I look at Janssen, and I didn't know that happened. but he was skating well and he was in the play. I mean, he's got 7 points in 11 games. I mean, that's
– oh, no, he's scoring because he's playing with Matthews and he's playing with Nylander, and he's a talented player. But this is a team, Russ, and I know Leaf fans know this, after changing a third of their roster, and that's traumatic, and that's something that contributes to the ability to sort of like know your teammate and be in the right place in the right time. The problem is that they still, after all this, cannot play defense. The roster defensively, not their blue line. Their blue line is actually better. It's the team. It's the overall team defense. They are thinking offensively. They're trying to, I don't know if they're doing the stretch passes anymore, but it's definitely an offensive mindset, and the defense will take care of itself. And how does that manifest itself after 11 games? They're the highest scoring team in the NHL with, I think, 38 or no, now it's 40 goals, and they've given up the most goals in the NHL. So if you want to be 1-31, that's not going to – they may get you in the playoffs, but it's not going to get you far in the playoffs.
The last thing that I noticed was when they pulled the goalie. Now, of course, Barry broke a stick. That could happen to anybody. But they were just not ready to play with the extra attacker. They were doing fancy drop passes. Matthews did not look good playing along the wall. He barely looked engaged. Like they didn't even have any fight in them when they had the extra attacker. Did you notice that?
Yeah. They had a power play with 3 minutes to go in the third period, and I've never seen a more dead. I think it was because their main players who they're playing more were dead tired at the end of two games. And okay, Washington has 41 goals. The Leafs were leading the league with 40 goals at some point last night, and they were leading it going into last night. But they have 40 goals, second in the NHL, and they have a goal differential of +1. That's just not acceptable. And this team will not win until they learn that they have to play at both ends of the ice. And that doesn't mean in the playoffs. It means every single freaking game. And they continue to not want to play that way. And maybe the roster isn't constructed that way because we know that Kyle Dubas decided he wanted to have a all-skill team. I don't think Babcock, I know that he had history in Detroit playing with a mostly skilled team. They did have players who would provide a little sandpaper.
The Holmstroms, and they had some of those guys.
And this team really doesn't. They have Zach Hyman, who's out. They have Janssen, who will push back. Muzzin will hit, but there's not much there. The star players, they don't push back. And until I'm not saying Matthews has got to go out and beat somebody up.
No, I mean he has injury problems enough that you don't want him to get too into that.
No, but being a big body, he's got to assert himself a little more. I'm not saying check. I'm not saying go.
So I'm going to fast forward 5 years from now. You're going to start giving him the Matt Sundin rap, aren't you?
If 5 years from now he's playing like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on, Mike.
Yeah. If I'm not saying he's got to go out and be a goon. He's got to, Russ, on Monday night, he got out-muscled by Pierre-Luc Dubois on a goal.
Pierre-Luc Dubois is a physical specimen.
So is Matthews.
Not to that degree. If you see Dubois in the locker room, you would be like, oh, my God, this guy is a fitness freak, and he is a lot stronger than Austin Matthews.
And Matthews purports to want to be the next Kopitar or Taves. If that's the case.
Yeah, but that takes years in the making. Years.
So we'll fast forward.
Kopitar doesn't fight or push.
I'm not saying fight. I'm not saying fight. I'm saying be tough on the puck. I'm saying steal pucks away. I'm saying being better defensively. He's an offense first guy, and he pays lip service to playing defensively, and he's not good defensively right now.
You'll trade him off your Stratomatic team.
No, I can't get him. They won't trade him. All right, a couple other games. Predators beat the Ducks 6-1. Seems to be a little bit of a correction here for Anaheim. They're now 6-4, 12 points. Nashville continues to surprise in terms of the offense that they're generating. They have 38 goals for. They're 5-3-1. They're getting a lot of offense from Matt Duchene. And I mean, this is a different Nashville team. We usually, I mean, but this is not unusual for a Laviolette team. He likes wide open offense.
No, that's true. And they have some injuries too, so they had to switch things up a little bit. And look, I mean, I don't think Laviolette's going to get fired, right? Everybody who was thinking that because, hey, it's getting to that point, and Rene's getting to that point, and I haven't even picked on UC Saros and his .854 save percentage. I haven't. But they've done a good job because of their centers. They really have. Their centers are carrying them through this. Roman Yossi's definitely helping. Guys like Arvidsson are helping. The fact that he went with Rocco Grimaldi again and Grimaldi got a goal. Grimaldi is a very fast, useful player. Maybe you don't play him every game, but there's definitely a role for him, and I'm happy to see that Laviolette's finding that. That's probably going to be his Harry Z for this year. This is a good sign for them, actually. It is. And Rene is having a heck of a year. Like, Pekka Rinne is not done. He is not.
No, but they'll need Saros to play probably 25 to 30 games.
Yeah, he's got to pick it up a little bit.
Yeah. 3-0 Minnesota Wild over the Edmonton Oilers. Second time in a row that the Oilers have been shut out. 3 goals from Eric Stahl and Brad Hunt within a span of a little over 5 minutes in the first period. No response, literally, from the Oilers after that. Only 25 shots on Alex Stalock, who gets the shutout. Again, can this be the correction that we are starting to expect from the Oilers? This is what I've been saying. They've got top-end talent. Draisaitl, McDavid. Not that this is any kind of great revelation. If they don't produce, if they get shut down, even if they get limited, this team loses because they have nothing else. They have, James Neal scoring 9 goals is all fine and good, but he's supplemental secondary offense that comes from McDavid and Draisaitl. They have a good forward in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. After that, who are you scared of on this Edmonton Oilers team? Nobody.
And Devin Dubnyk was having a heck of a game, and I think he sustained a concussion. Alex Stalock came in, didn't miss a beat. So, I mean, this is a game where McDavid was a minus. He only had 2 shots on goal. Like, that seems like impossible for Connor McDavid to go through a game with 2 shots on goal, right? So there's that. And then let's see, Draisaitl, 1 shot on goal. And look, Minnesota does have a pretty good defense, but this is what happens when Dave Tippett takes over your team. Guys who want to shoot 8-9 times a game can't always shoot 8-9 times a game because they have to play this lockdown defense. So they held them, and they only lost 3-0, but they didn't get any offense going. They didn't. They had 25
shots on goal. Yeah,
25 shots on goal. Yeah.
LA Kings beat the Winnipeg Jets 3-2. Kings have sort of bounced back a little bit. I think they're now close to 500. I'm just looking at their record. I think they were 4-6 going into the game. No, they were 3-5. Now they're 4-5. But
they're still going to have a rough year, but they have pride, and that's what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, and they still have some good players. I mean, Kopitar gets the winning goal in the third period. There has to be some concern about the Jets. I think that everybody expected the Jets, going into the season with all their injuries, to have some problems. They're now under 500, and the defense obviously is a concern, to the point that this morning they put in a waiver claim on Lucas Spiza, who Anaheim had to put on waivers. I think that they were going to send him down to San Diego because they'd had a slew of injuries, and then probably call him up because he has some NHL experience and played in the league last year. But Winnipeg is so desperate for defense right now that they claimed him, and we still haven't heard anything about Buffalo, so we don't know where that is going.
That's true. I don't think Buffalo's coming back. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't heard anything in the last couple of weeks. The last thing we heard was, I think it was Pierre LeBrun that reported that it looked encouraging that the efforts to talk him into coming back were working. But, that says a lot, that they have to convince him to come back. You know, I mean, you'd think he'd want to come back.
Well, I mean, I can't go that far because he may already have decided I don't really want to. And if guys are just trying to get him to come back, it's a pointless conversation. And he probably is listening just because he likes those guys. But, you know, you can't talk somebody into something they don't want to do when they've been doing it their whole life and they've decided, I've had enough. I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and I didn't see the waiver wire. No, Funky Cold Zadina just put it in the chat about Erickson. I don't believe. I would think we would have heard if he had.
We would have heard. Then nobody
was going to take that contract. But the thing is that yesterday there was some confusion, and there was no. I mean, unless there was a termination of the contract where he's going to Europe,
right?
There's no buyout right now. There's no buyout window.
Right.
The only thing they gain is that they could send him down to Grand Rapids and maybe he would play there and get himself back into shape. But I know there was an injury that kept him out all year. It's really unknown what's going on. So, but I just don't think he's I mean, last year I didn't think he was an NHL defenseman. He's big, but he's slow, and now he's had some injury problems. So, you know, I'm not sure where the future, what path the future is for Erickson. I do
want to say this: the ice time really did tell a story for Winnipeg, because Wheeler had 22 minutes, Scheifele had 23. Yeah. You know, they're playing it a lot like the Edmonton Oilers now, and they never used to.
Yeah, apparently, Stuttering Guitarist in the chat says they're waiting for him to report to Grand Rapids. If he doesn't report, then they can.
He's not going to report, I don't think.
Yeah, then they can suspend him, and then then his money comes off the cap. But they're really not up against the cap, and that's. I mean,
they're not.
They got a lot of dead money. Remember, they have about $10 million in dead money from the Franzen and the Zetterberg contract. Yeah. So, you know, they might be a team that takes on one of those guys, takes on an LTIR guy, or takes on salary to get young assets back. They also could trade one of those guys to a team looking to open up cap space, like next year, maybe like a team like Toronto. Two other games. Capitals beat the Flames 5-3. We'll touch on this one, Russ, because I know you wanted to talk about the Blackhawks.
Actually, I want to talk about the Capitals game.
Go ahead.
Because, again, John Carlson is up to 20 points, man.
Yeah.
20 points.
Yeah, but I know that
in a month.
I know. I don't know. I think you mentioned it yesterday, but I know somebody else said that, 20 points, or, he's leading the league in scoring. That means he's going to be in the running for the Norris Trophy. We know what the Norris Trophy is like in terms of.
He also blocked shots, so that's not fair either.
Right, but I'm saying that we know what the Norris Trophy voting is like for guys who are offensive defensemen. It's tough for them. Now, I think he's more than that. And was he like 5th or 6th in the voting last year, something like that? He was up there. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, if it's a guy like, and I'll use Mike Green as an example in the past, when he scored a bunch of goals and a bunch of points with Washington, because he was so bad defensively, it sort of countered his offensive numbers. I think Carlson's better defensively than that, but if he's just a scorer, that's not just solely enough for him to be a Norris candidate. He's going to have to show that he's just as much of a two-way defenseman as some of these other guys.
Well, you don't have to be a complete two-way defenseman, because that's a misnomer too. We know that doesn't have to be the case. But as an example, and this is why he was high in my voting last year. Last year he had 13 goals, 70 points, and he had 164 blocks. That 164 blocks was one of the high numbers in the league. So, and he had 54 hits, a lot more than usual. Already this year, in 11 games, he has 21 blocks and 6 hits. So clearly he is doing a lot more than just that.
Now, the final game here, the Vegas Golden Knights beat the Chicago Blackhawks 2-1 in a shootout. The only goal from the Blackhawks comes from 3rd overall pick Kirby Dach. Now, Russ, the Blackhawks are not playing well right now out of the gate. After a lot of changes in the offseason, they signed Leonard, they trade for Mata, they trade for DeHaan, they tried to solidify their defense.
It's shocking to me, Mike. Shocking.
I can hear the dismay in your voice.
I mean, I'm just saying. So it's like it's catching me, blindsiding me, really.
But I know that you're obviously being facetious here. You're essentially saying you're not shocked by this and that this team's in trouble.
They're a piecemeal team. I mean, I've watched their games. They've got guys playing certain roles. I don't know if Jeremy Colleton is the right guy for this team simply because they really have to get the most out of their players. They're not going to, their cap situation doesn't improve next year either.
No.
So this is the same old thing next year too. Right now, they're only a -3 on differential, which isn't bad. But to only have 19 goals for, to actually have the fewest goals in the West, that's a recipe for disaster, Mike. I mean, there's no way around it.
Yeah, and they got DeBrincat signed to that 3-year bridge, so that was good to be proactive and get that done. But if you look, Strome, Perlini are RFAs. If Strome, and I don't know how many points he's got right now, I'll have to look it up, but if he's having anything close to the type of year that he had last year, he had an assist last night in 7 games, he's got 4 points. So right now he's off to a little bit of a slow start. But if he has another year like he did last year in the second half after getting traded from Arizona, he's probably going to be a $4.5 to $5 million player on a bridge deal. And that's on top of Taves and Kane at 10-5. Brandon's at 6. Yeah.
So Duncan Keith, 2 points. Jonathan Taves, 2 points, 1 goal. Andrew Shaw, 2 goals, no assists. Even Gustafsson, 4 points, and he was their answer last year. Dylan Strome has 4 and 7. That's pretty good. DeBrincat has 4. Saad has 4. Nylander has 4. Alex Nylander has 4 points.
Yeah.
He is tied for their second leading scorer. Patrick Kane has 8. They are in deep trouble. Now, Kirby Dach did get his first NHL goal, so maybe that gives him a boost. We'll see. First game, he was just settling in, so, that could be something. But, I mean, you look at what they've got there, it's just not enough.
Yeah.
943 save percentage in his 3 games, so he's been great. But you have to actually be able to score, and they can't score.
Especially, like, last year, Taves started slow and then played really well in the second half. Is it getting to the point where, because he's got a lot of wear on those tires.
Oh, yeah.
Is it at the point where he's not going to be able to put up complete seasons playing the way that he plays, that he can do it for stretches? The problem is he's making $10.5 million, and they can't. And this is similar to what's going on in Toronto right now.
I think he peaked last year. I think what happened was, and this happens in a lot of baseball players' careers, you have a great run, then you start slowing down, and then you really go crazy with your training, and you have one more really great year. And he had a great year, 81 points. Mm-hmm. He is nowhere near 81 points. I can't even imagine him getting 70 points this year. So I think now Father Time is just mileage-wise catching up with him. It doesn't matter that he's 31. It just doesn't.
No, that's an old 31. But what I was saying is that he's the type of guy that, I mean, especially with a lot of these teams, and like I was saying with Toronto, if you're paying a guy $10 million, then he's got to play like he's worth $10 million. And if he does not play that way, then you're in deep trouble. Okay, so a couple.
I gotta tell you this. People should go to Jimmy Doc has a Twitter account, and he's like so proud of my grandson on scoring his first NHL goal. And his grandson is like 1.5 feet taller than him. I just retweeted it so people can find it. It's a great picture though. But it's nice because it makes you laugh, but it's also like, hey, cool. That's a really nice family moment. But yeah, I'm sorry, Hawks fans. It's just you're going to be one of the worst teams in the West this year.
Okay, couple notes here, and then we'll take some questions. There was a trade yesterday, a minor trade. Antti Sorella, the former Ranger draft pick who was traded to Carolina, then traded to Chicago in the deal involving Calvin DeHaan. Now was traded to Florida for defenseman Ian McCoshen. It seems like it's a minor transaction. So
Ian McCoshen does have some promise. I don't know what his foot speed is right now because I haven't seen him this year, but he can play some defense. And I do think Sorella at some point is going to produce at the NHL level. I do. So I think this is actually a good swap. I think this could help both teams, actually.
But it's weird that this guy, we've heard, and I saw him play last year in the Calder Cup conference final, and he played pretty well. It's his fourth team.
Doesn't matter. I mean, sometimes look at Marchessault. How many teams was he with until it clicked?
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of him.
Rangers, Tampa, Florida, Vegas. Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of him. And McCoshen, got to remember, Mark Stewart is in charge of scouting in Chicago. He likes his college players, and he was a really good player. He was in the U.S. system. So let's see what Ian McCoshen can do. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on him.
Okay. All right. Couple things. We saw the ugly injury to Mikko Rantanen on Monday. There was supposed to be an update at some point today. It looks as if it was a high ankle sprain and not a broken bone, but they're expecting that he will be out week to week. We haven't seen the update yet, but that's the generally accepted.
It's gonna happen. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it's, and the thing, like we said yesterday, high ankle sprains in some instances are worse than broken bones, because with broken bones, as soon as the bone is set and healed, then it's, you can basically start from scratch. Whereas high ankle sprains, it's as traumatic, and sometimes you don't get it back in terms of your ability to skate or whatever for the remainder of the year. So that would be a loss for Colorado if Rantanen comes back after, say, 2 months and is not close to being the player that he normally is. The other note, and then we'll take some questions. Roman Josi, and there's some speculation regarding his negotiations with Nashville. I believe it was Pierre LeBrun on TSN Insider Trading yesterday that said Josi and his representatives want him to be the third highest paid defenseman in the NHL behind Erik Karlsson.
I told you he's looking for a payday, man.
Yeah, and Drew Doughty. That means more than 11, less than 11, but probably more than PK Subban's 9.
Oh, no, he's got to get more than 9.
Yeah, he's probably going to be in the 9.75 to 10 range. And I believe what LeBrun said was they're not there yet, meaning that Nashville is not.
Well, because cap-wise, where are they at?
They would have to find somebody to take Kyle Turris's contract off their hands, because he's got 5 more years at $6 million, and he's not that player anymore. But good luck with that.
Yeah, this is going to be tough for them. If they are able to re-sign him, they're going to have to make changes like this. I'm telling you, I could see this going right through the summer, and he talks to other teams and goes back with that last offer to Nashville. I could see it working out that way.
Right. All right, we'll take some questions here before we end the show. Stuttering Guitarist asks, does Puljujarvi get traded before December 1st, Russ?
Why December 1st? What is that date?
December 1st is because he's an RFA, and if he doesn't sign by December 1, he can't re-sign. He can resign, but he can't play in the NHL until next year.
Right. Yeah, I think they probably will. I mean, he's playing better there. I see that he's scoring goals. So the more goals he scores there, the better chance Holland has of trading him.
You know that there's going to be some resolution to this when you hear that Edmonton basically is coming out and saying, oh, maybe it would be better for him to stay over there for a year. Like that. Right. Nobody thinks that. Nobody.
Not at this point. When they're early in their career, yes.
Puljujarvi wants to be traded, and I think the Oilers know that he will never play up to their expectations for him, but they want to get value for him. And the other team supposedly that's interested in him is Carolina, and that would make a lot of sense because they have a lot of Finns, Aho and Teravainen, and that probably would be a more comfortable situation for him. But what would a Carolina give up? Would they give up a Jake Bean or a Hayden Fleury or some defenseman that would help out Edmonton? I don't know. I mean, if I was,
I just hope he's a cat lover, because while all these NHL teams are having dogs or dog mascots, the Canes had cats at their, or I'm not sure if it was cats or kittens. I didn't get to see the full report at one of their practices. So
Does that mean they're going to like dunk the cat or throw it into a net or?
No, only Michael Jello would think about that. No, they're going to pet the cats.
Well, no, they're going to include it in their stupid post-game thing.
No, they're not. You would scare a cat that way.
Funky Cold Zadina asks, are you guys watching Survivor for Tom Laidlaw? He's still there.
I'd like to say I'm watching it for Laidlaw because I really love the guy. I'm not.
I've never watched Survivor, and I like Tom, and I hope he wins, but just to watch him, I wouldn't watch it for anybody.
Right. At this point, I'm not watching it for anybody, but I do love Laidlaw. Hope that he wins, and if he does win, I'll see the highlights.
Yeah. Funky Cold Zadina, I've never taken a question from him. What do you guys think of Craig Button's comments about the Leafs not being a cup contender, Russ?
I think he's right on the money. Right now, how could you call him a cup contender? I mean, there's things that are missing. They have to get past Boston or Tampa to probably get to the cup. Those are right now, at this moment, I mean, that's all he's talking about is at this moment, those are big obstacles.
Well, I was listening on my way home. I was listening to him on TSN radio, and basically what he said was they've been an average team for the last 56 games, which probably equates to when they signed Nylander at December 1st, because they were tops in the league at that point or close to it, and they were a 500 team after that point. Not to say that the Nylander signing made it so, but they, and now they're basically
of the Babcock message. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like I said, I get the feeling that this team, for most of the time that Babcock has been here, the team has not been constructive in a way that Babcock wants his teams to be constructed. And when you give a chef the ingredients to make a meal, it's got to be the right ingredients or the meal is going to taste like crap. And that's the problem, is that Babcock wants, heavy, tough players, and Lou Lamoriello didn't give it to him. And now Kyle Dubas has his own vision, and they're the general managers. That's their prerogative. But you would think that they could, and that's the thing, is like, we always knew that there was going to be a little bit of a power struggle between Babcock and whatever general manager there was, because Babcock likes to play the game and likes the game to be played a certain way. And if their vision doesn't jive with that, then it's not going to end up well. And right now they're struggling, but I also think that their struggles right now have to do with the roster being changed over by 1/3 and everybody not being on the page. So I think we'll get a more accurate indicator of,
I think it's the wearing down of the Babcock message. I really do.
You think they're tuning it out
at this moment? Now, it doesn't mean it won't change, but right now it does seem that way.
Okay. Mark Elias asks, do you think Pasternak can get to 90 to 100 points? He looks so good. Yes, I think he can get. If Marchand got there last year, I think Pasternak can too.
Yep. No, I definitely think he can.
And that line, honestly, I haven't seen a team that can control them.
I saw him as a very young player come into Philly and do well. I want to say he had 1 year in the AHL, right? Pasternak, I think he had 1 year, and then they called him up mid-season, 20 games, something like that. And I knew then, I was like, man, this guy is just so good.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And remember, he was a 21st pick overall.
Yep. Great pick.
He was picked after Reinhart, after Ekblad, after Ehlers and Nylander and Nick Ritchie.
Yeah.
He was in the bottom third of the first round. Just think
he was the steal of that draft, probably.
Yep. Steve James asks, Mike Russ, with Hyman and Dermott coming back, the Leafs will be better. But what piece do you think the team is missing? Who is a player in the league you'd make a trade for? Well, okay. Again, the problem is that it's money in, money out.
Right. They got to get somebody on an expiring deal. That's obvious.
Well, yeah, but the problem is they have to trade to open up the cap space to be able to fit. If it's say it's a $5 million player, whoever it is,
right? It's
a $5 million player, and the other team eats 50%. Okay, so that's $2.5 million. You've got a clear $2.5 million in cap space. Where? If you're 21 players, which they're going to be when Hyman and Dermott comes back. They've got to open up $2.5 million on that 21-man roster to be able to afford this player who they're getting at 50%. That means you have to have 20 players in the league. You'd have to cut the one extra player or trade somebody who's already existing off your roster. So where it's going to be, if you're open to trading Nylander, that opens that trade.
They're not trading Nylander.
And right, exactly. So I don't know where you're.
It won't be a big player. They're not getting a big player. They can't.
Right. And if it's not a big player, then it's not an impactful player.
Well, you don't know that. I'm not going to say that. Like, what if, as an example, they decided, you know what? We don't want to play Marincin anymore. We'll trade for Robert Hagg from the Flyers. He doesn't make a lot of money. That could be impactful, just improving your defensive structure. So that's what it's going to be. It'll be something like that or a fourth liner. I don't think it'll be anything else.
Okay. El Guapo asks, I love that name. What have you heard about the Ho-Sang trade rumors? 0. Yeah, the last thing I heard, I think it was Drager reported yesterday that Lou is working on it. That's all we've heard.
And that was lunch. It's totally unrelated.
Yeah, he's working on his lunch orders.
No, my lunch. No.
Oh, your lunch. No, I'll have a roast beef sub with mayo, with horseradish mayo and green apples. No, okay.
I meant the club, but anyway.
Yeah. Dean Youngblood asks, Mike, do you just watch Pawn Stars? I've never watched Pawn Stars in my life.
Really? Not even one episode?
Not even once. Not even once I've watched it. Not once.
Cool.
Yeah, I watch Diners, Drive. I watch Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Occasionally, I'll watch the show Flip and Flop or Flip or Flop.
I've never watched that. Okay.
It's basically somebody when they buy a crappy house and they redo it, and it's the guy and the wife and they're on out divorce, but they still do the show.
Okay, yeah, I've seen clips of that. Okay.
Yes, and yes, I won't go into her personal life, but I heard some stories. Let's see here. One or two more. I don't know. The Thomas Boyle Islanders' only option with Ho-Sang is to place him on unconditional waiver.
No.
Why would you say that? That's just dumb. He has value. Come on.
Value.
Let's see. Babs needs Hyman back from Funky Cold Zadina. Yeah, they did. But here's the thing. You're not going to get the Zach Hyman that was there before the knee injury. It's an ACL tear. It's going to take him a while to get back up to that level. So
if he can get back to that level, we don't know.
Right. And remember the type of game that he plays along the wall. He plays a rough and tumble game. He's annoying. His ability to make turns and things of that nature are going to be affected by that injury. So
question.
Do not rush him back. Balmy Frank asked, when will Lindy Ruff get fired from coaching of the Rangers, Russ?
I think he's going to ride out the year. I would hope that he won't be there next year in that position. If Lindy wants to, be an advisor and do something else, great. But as far as coaching on the ice with defense, no.
Here's my nominee for most overrated Buffalo food. NASCAR 427 says beef on whack. That is the most overrated Buffalo food. It's a roast beef sandwich with horseradish on a Kimmelwick roll, which is a roll with caraway seeds and salt on the outside of it.
I don't like caraway, but salt I do.
It's totally overrated. I don't understand why, it's some sort of
what I don't understand is if you already have a salty meat, why are you having salt on the roll? Right,
exactly. I find it too salty, and I hate horseradish.
I do want to tell you that, and this is in motion as we speak. I've already given a report to my pizza analytics department, and they're putting together a report. I did it on 4 types of frozen pizza. I started with frozen because everybody buys frozen pizza once in a while. If you don't, you're a liar. If you say you don't, you're a liar.
Okay. I'll give my the thoughts on 2 of them. DiGiorno is the most overrated frozen pizza out
They're
there.
not even on my list. But I only did 4. I could do more later.
Right. It tastes like cardboard. The sauce has no flavor to whatsoever. And even if you put your own toppings on top of what they have, it's uneatable. Now, the funny thing is,
I get it.
Right. I know. It's in. I know that, Russ. I'm just making a point using bad. I'm talking to the folks out there.
Oh, okay. You're dumbing it down for them. Got it.
You misunderestimate me. No, the other one, and it's probably the cheapest one, which is Tony's. They're like the little personal pizzas. They're like you buy them for like Celeste. Excuse me, Celeste.
Oh, Celeste. Okay.
They're the small pizzas that are like $1.25. The sauce is a little better, and you can do anything with them. It's like you put them in the oven, you put like mushrooms, whatever on top of them, and you can make it into your own pie. It's like it's moldable.
I haven't had a Celeste one in a very long time, so I'll reveal on this show the 4 that are in it. The first one is Wellesley Farms, and I only do cheese pizza, just cheese. That's it. Now it could be a million cheeses, but only cheese pizza because I feel like otherwise it gets too hard to judge. So. Wellesley Pizza, it's BJ's. What is it?
They're in store.
I forget their exact name, but you know what I'm talking about. Yes, that's their store brand. That's in the running. Elio's, the square slices.
Okay. That's
in the running. Freshetta, that has a rising crust.
Yeah, I've had that once. Not impressed.
That's in the running. And Archer Farms, who's Target's own brand, they do a wood fire, and that's in the running.
Yes, don't include Walmart's store brand.
I don't even go into Walmart, man. But I didn't include like El Giorno or Tombstone. Yeah, I didn't include like Del Giorno or Tombstone or Celeste. But I will have people let me know what they think I should try to unseat the 4 that I like, and I do rate them all, and so that'll be coming out.
And last but not least, Funky Cold Zadina.
The places, obviously, and cities, all that fun stuff. Sorry.
Funky Cold Zadina says, "Are you guys ready for the annual pumpkin spice craze? Where have you been, Funky? We've been talking about this for a month, and Russ hates it." What was that? What was that?
Not telling.
Okay. All right. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching. And remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.